Hey guys, I'm back with a new video. So this video is going to be a little different from my other ones. I'm not going to be filming myself holding up a DVD or a Blu-ray. I'm just going to be showing the movies that are lying here on my bed, all like individually. This is going to be like, sort of like a rundown review stuff of the Halloween series. And I thought I'd just do in this video because it's Halloween season. Halloween's just a few days away. And I recently rewatched all these movies for the Halloween season, so I thought, why don't I do a little rundown review of all the movies? So it'll be like little quick reviews of all of them. And normally I don't really rate movies on like my videos, but I thought, well, maybe I just do it for this video. And I may just do it just for this one time only, but who knows? Maybe I'll change my mind and do another one. So without further ado, let's get started on the Halloween series. So I got the box set right here, the Scream Factory box set. Got it autographed by George P. Wilbur, who played Michael Myers in Halloween 4 and 6. He's a nice guy. And so, I'm just going to empty out all the Blu-rays in this box set. All individually right here. Let me get this little book thing out of the way. And let's just get started right here. So, and we got the first movie. Here, let me just kind of film right over here so we don't get that glare. So, the first movie is what really started this series right here. I mean, this was directed by John Carpenter. This is actually one of his best movies, along with The Thing, Christine, Escape from New York, The Fog, and many others I can name, but let's just focus just on this one movie right here. So this is the movie that introduced the killer Michael Myers, and this also made a scream queen out of Jamie Lee Curtis. This was like her first movie. She was acting in like maybe TV stuff at the time, but this was her first movie. After this, she like went on to act in other horror movies, but then she became very big and famous. So like this wasn't like your typical like slasher movie. This was because this is like a slasher movie that didn't really rely on like blood, gore, like extreme violence to scare you. This was like an atmosphere. It was like more of a thriller than it was like a slasher movie. So like this was like a very good tension, suspense, very good thriller movie. I really loved the music, really loved the atmosphere. I can't really name anything bad about this movie. I mean, like, I don't really think there really is. So, like, this was, like, very good performances by Jamie Lee Curtis, by Donald Pleasence. I mean, it was all around, like, just a pretty scary movie. It's one of my favorite ones of all time. So, I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 5. Okay, then after that, we got the sequel, Halloween 2. So, this one is actually one of the better sequels. I mean, like, I know it was basically controversial because, like, a lot of people don't believe Halloween needed a sequel. Well, to be all honest, they're kind of right. It didn't need a sequel. It was good as it was. I mean, it was scary as it was. I mean, yes, the first movie was left open, like, that Michael was still alive, but that doesn't mean it needed a sequel. Maybe it was more scary that Michael survived. So this one, like, picks up right where the first movie ended. And so, like, it's set in a hospital, which I thought actually made a pretty good atmosphere. Like, the hospital setting was pretty good. But this one, like, went to a different direction. Like, because the first movie, as I said before, was, like, more of an atmosphere horror movie. This was, like, a violent one. So it had a more violent tone than the first movie. So it's like kind of derailed itself from that point on. But to be honest, that's kind of like a second movie. I mean, sorry, not a sequel tradition. Like that's the body count is always bigger. The death scenes are always more violent. So it's kind of a tradition in that sense. So like it's a good sequel, not as good as the first movie. And there's actually this Blu-ray has two different cuts: the theatrical cut and the television cut. Well, I did like the theatrical cut more, but the TV cut was actually wasn't a bad cut either. I mean, like the editing was a little choppy, a little here and there. Like some of the scenes were a little rearranged. But some of the scenes though were a little longer because they actually filmed some of the scenes longer, but they edited them a little shorter in the theatrical cut, so you see like the little longer scenes, the extended scenes. However, they did edit down like the violence though, and like two death scenes were edited out of the TV cut though. So like because they edited out the violence, so it had more of that same tone as the first movie, so it had more of that atmosphere look than the violent look. I do like the ending of the television cut a little more though, so I give the television cut that bit of credit. So it has more of the tone of the first movie, and also the ending was better. And so my rating for this one is a 4 out of 5. And so then we got the pretty controversial Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. So this is one that was like, hated and ridiculed amongst its release because of its title. There was no Michael Myers in it. So like it was just all out hated at the time. And I'm going to admit I hated it originally when I first saw it because there was no Michael Myers in it. But as an adult, I've grown to appreciate it. Sorry about the glare there. So I've grown to appreciate this movie for what it is. And heck, like, it is actually the most original one in the series. Because this one wasn't like, your typical slasher movie. I mean, actually, this one wasn't a slasher movie in general. It was a little hard to explain. I guess maybe I could probably say a psychological horror movie. I mean, because this movie is actually something that the other movies weren't. This one actually did something that the Halloween series didn't do, not even the first movie, and that was explore the Halloween season. So, like, the main villain in this one was, like, making these masks that, when you wear them on Halloween Day during this big giveaway, the masks, like, kill whoever's wearing them, like, turns their heads into, like, cockroaches and snakes. This one also, like, had Tom Atkins, who was a good actor, by the way. He actually did a pretty good performance in this one. And because when they brought him, I should actually say, like, since this one was actually original, when they brought Michael Myers back, it just became the same generic slasher movie. So there's actually something I could say about this. This one was actually original. It wasn't a generic slasher movie like the other movies were. So this one was actually very underrated. This one was actually, this is actually a pretty good movie. One that should actually get some more appreciation for what it is. So as I said, like, if you don't like this movie, it's fine, like, but I would say, like, you should give this movie a chance, though. I mean, it's really not a bad movie. It's actually got some more going for it than you think. So my rating for this one is 4 out of 5. And then, as I said, they brought back Michael Myers in this one, which became, of course, the same generic slasher movie. So we got Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers. Again, I apologize for that glare. Okay, so I think that's a little better now. So Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. So this one like came out basically 10 years after the first movie. It's set 10 years after the first and second movie. So like Michael Myers is back now, and which is actually a little weak the way they brought him back, because last time we saw him in the second movie, he was burning alive there. He was basically collapsed to the ground right there. The way he was burning, he would have burned right down to a skeleton, so he was dead right there. But like, the way they brought him back is that he at the fire he was in just put him in a coma. So that was just pretty weak right there. But this one isn't actually a bad movie though. I mean, we got Donald Pleasance back in this one, reprising his role as Dr. Loomis from the first and second movie. Yeah, so he apparently survived too. And also this introduced a new character, Jamie Lloyd, who was played by Danielle Harris, so who was actually gave a very good performance herself right there. It's actually this movie is what made her famous in the horror genre. She's gotten like work in many other horror movies thanks to this movie. So it's basically made a scream queen out of her as well, just like the first one made a scream queen out of Jamie Lee Curtis. So, like, the things I didn't like, I didn't really like Michael's mask in this one. I thought it was too white. I didn't like how the hair was, like, very well groomed as well. But I also didn't really like how he was all, like, muscled, like he was all jacked like a football player. But I did like how this, like, did continue the, whole tradition that Michael's, like, going after his family. And I did like, as I said, Donald Pleasance gave a good performance, and so did Danielle Harris. I did like, of course, some of the death scenes in this one. They were pretty good. I It also didn't. It wasn't all that gory as maybe you think it was, because it did have, like, pretty good atmosphere. It was shot pretty good too. I did also like the opening credits. It's actually it was dripping with atmosphere. Like, that was really cool. I did like the music in this one too. And the ending of this one was just like, a big shocker right there. I mean, like, basically, like, Michael's evil passes to his niece, Jamie. So that was actually pretty good right there. And so my rating for this one is a 3 out of 5. And then a year later, we got Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. So, now this one, it started to go a bit downhill, like, after this one. I mean, like, of course the fourth one was a bit generic, but it wasn't a bad movie. This one, I mean, like, this one picked up right where a fourth movie ended, kind of. However, ignores the whole thing that the evil passes from Michael to his niece, Jamie, instead. And so instead of that whole thing, that's all ignored. It's now she has, like, a psychic connection, actually, so that's what it was. So that was just pretty weak right there. And also the way Michael came back in this one was a little weak too. Turns out he didn't die. He escaped, and then he was, like, living with a hermit for a year until, of course, Halloween brings him back, of course, and so now he's, like, going back to get his niece Jamie again. And I mean, like, I did like the mask in this one more than the mask in the fourth one, so it's got that. And, like, Donald Pleasance comes back again, and Danielle Harris also comes back again. And their acting in it was still pretty good too. I mean, everyone else's acting is pretty much over the top, kind of annoying. Like, characters in this one aren't really good, except for Donald Pleasance and Amy Lloyd. I mean, Danielle Harris. So they were, like, still likable. Of course, Dr. Loomis, played by Donald Pleasance, is kind of different in this one. Like, he's an angry guy in this one, but it makes sense though, because, like, it's a year later, and Jamie has this connection to him now. So, like, they're all trying to find Michael, but she's not letting them in. So it makes sense. But, like, despite he was, like, more of an angry Dr. Loomis in this one, so Donald Pleasance actually gave one of his best performances, so I'm going to say that. I mean, this one was a little bit of a rehash of the fourth one at the same time, though. So, all in all, I mean, this one it's went a little downhill, but it's not a bad movie. I mean, I've watched it as many times as I've watched the fourth movie. So, for what it's worth, it's watchable. I'll give it, 2.5 out of 5. And we've got Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. So, now this is the one that's, like, been the most hated and ridiculed one in the entire series for years. And I can actually see why. I mean, this has two different cuts of it. Like, there's the producer's cut and the theatrical cut. So, like, this one's set 2 years after the fifth movie. Jamie from the fourth and fifth movie is now an adult, played by a different actress, of course, and she's taken in by this cult, and they have her impregnated. Then, like, the day she gives birth, she escapes. Then Michael goes after her and her baby, and Michael kills her. Then, like, her baby, of course, survived though, so now he's going after her baby. So. And of course, Donald Pleasence comes back in this one as Dr. Loomis for one last time. I mean, in the theatrical cut, he's not in it that much. However, the producer's cut, he's in it more though. And so like I I mean, I know what actually happened when they were filming this movie. Like they filmed it as the producer's cut originally, but then Donald Pleasence died shortly after they finished filming it, and so and also the director was actually unhappy with the way it came out, the producer's cut. So like he got his way and reshot a lot of stuff. Like he reshot a lot of like the second half of the movie. So like the ending in both cuts is very different, as well as also one of the death scenes is very different as well. So like this one actually gives us more story of like what basically turned Michael evil. Like we find out that he's basically about a part of this cult, and that the cult's making him kill his family. But you know what? I actually think that was actually a stupid move on that part, because in the first movie they were saying that Michael was just killing people is because he's just evil. I mean, wasn't it better that way, that he was just evil? Like this, because that would create some pretty good suspense, pretty good mystery behind the character. This one just throws all that mystery, all that suspense away, and it just wasn't good. So I will say the theatrical cut, in my personal opinion, it's better, because the way Michael gets stopped in the theatrical cut was better. We find out who the baby's father was in the producer's cut, which makes no sense whatsoever. So, I mean, I'll give the producer's cut some credit because we got more of Dr. Loomis in that one, but Michael Myers didn't really do much in that one, so it's kind of a trade-off. Like, you get either more Dr. Loomis in the producer's cut or more Michael Myers in the theatrical cut. Another thing that I'll give the producer's cut a little more is that, the storytelling was a little better, even though it was bad storytelling. Because the editing in the theatrical cut was pretty chappy, just like the editing in the television cut of the second movie. So, but overall, I just really didn't like this one, and I'm just gonna end this review for this one right here. I'm gonna give this one a 1 out of 5. So let's move on to the next one, and the next one, of course, is one of the most popular ones, Halloween H2O. 20 years later. Basically, this is like a reboot sequel in the series. Like, this ignored Halloween 3, 4, 5, and 6, and was taking place after the second movie. Brought back Jamie Lee Curtis, who actually it was her idea to have this movie being made, because this came out in 1998, which would have been the 20-year anniversary of the original movie. So she wanted to do a 20-year anniversary reunion movie. So, this one's, it's set 20 years after the events of the first two movies. Laurie Strode changed her name to Carrie Tate, and she's, running this school. She lives with her son, John. But then Michael, of course, tracks her down, then, finds her. And so now he's going after her and her son. But then, I should also just mention that in this movie, she's traumatized of the events of the first two movies for years. But then she actually decides to go up and face her monster. So she actually now stalks her brother. So that was actually a very cool thing in this movie. So this is one of the best sequels. It's one of the it's the one that redeemed the series. And it actually had the perfect ending up until they ruined it. Okay, so overall, I'm going to give this one 4 out of 5. And we got one of the most unnecessary ones in the series, Halloween Resurrection. So, this is the one that takes place 3 years after H2O. And basically, Laurie Strode's been traumatized again because turns out she killed the wrong person. She didn't kill Michael. They made up a whole bullshit story, which I actually talked about in my worst sequels video I just recently did. So, But then, like, Michael finds her, then kills her. Then after that, they go into a completely random story of like this these new characters getting this gig on a reality TV show that's being filmed in Michael Myers' house. And basically, the person that's running the show is, of course, Busta Rhymes. So, this is the most unnecessary one in the series. I really didn't like this one. I mean, here's actually something I wanted to talk about this one because, like, I know killing off Laurie was like the most controversial thing about this movie, and you know what? I hated the fact that they did that myself, but I think they could have actually done a better story than just this random story of this reality show being filmed in Michael Myers' house. Here's actually a better story. I mean, if you were going to kill off Laurie, fine. But here's actually a better story. You kill off Laurie, but then there's actually something left open in H2O. What about her son, John? I mean, he's not even mentioned in this one, but however, there's a picture of him over Laurie's bed in the mental institute. So, there's continuity right there, so why don't you have, like, Michael going back for John in this one? So that would have been a better story right there. But instead you just wasted on this crappy story. Alright, so this is the worst one in the series, and this is the one that should just never have been made. And my rating for this one is a 0 out of 5. And after that, we got the series remade, which actually they should have just did after H2O. And here's the remake, the one that was directed by Rob Zombie. And this is the one that's gotten like a lot of split down the middle opinions on this one by like the fan base. Of course, the critics didn't really like it. However, it was the one that made a profit. It's actually the highest grossing Halloween movie to date. And so I'm going to actually say, as a remake, if you compare this movie to the original movie, then it's doomed. So I would say just don't compare it to the original movie. Look at it as its own movie. Because as its own movie, it's not really bad. So, like, so basically it's like the same story. Like, Michael goes crazy, then, like, gets locked away in a mental institute. And then 15 years later, he comes back to Haddonfield. Then, like, starts stalking his sister. But, like, this one actually goes a lot more in depth with, like, Michael Myers. So when you really think about it, it's like, it's like an in-depth analysis of a psychopath, which is fine. So, like, and like, in this one, Dr. Loomis is played by Malcolm McDowell from A Clockwork Orange. Michael Myers is played by Tyler Mane, the actor who played Sabretooth in the first X-Men movie. He did a pretty good job in this one, and so did Malcolm McDowell. I mean, I will say that, like, maybe they shouldn't have really gone in, like, much of a backstory of Michael, because the thing that was so good about the original movie is that, like, there was no backstory. There was, like, a whole mystery. There's no mystery in this one, which is actually something that a lot of fans didn't like about this one. I mean, I've seen other Rob Zombie movies. I've seen House of Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, The Lords of Salem. I have not seen 31 yet. And, like, I'm going to say this one, actually, Rob Zombie kind of let up a little bit on his style. So it wasn't as much of his style in this one as it was in his other movies. So he let up a little bit on his style in this one. Of course, there was still, like, over-the-top violence and over-the-top cursing. So I really think he didn't need all that over-the-top cursing, so... But overall, this one wasn't, like, a bad movie. I mean, like, it's good as its own movie, but bad as a remake. So, my rating for this one, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. And then after this one, this is actually the last one in the entire series, we got the sequel to the remake, which is actually something that Rob Zombie didn't want to do originally. He, like, said for a while he wasn't going to make a sequel. But he ended up doing, because he said that he changed his mind because he didn't want anyone to mess with his vision. And this one, on the other hand, like since I just said in the first one, Rob Zombie let up on his style. This one, he goes all out on his style. Excuse me there. So like I saw this movie on its first day because I saw the first one on its first day too, and I was actually very excited when I saw this one because I still enjoyed the remake for what it was, and the trailer for this one actually was really good. But after I saw it, I left pretty disappointed. Now, I will say the beginning stuff, like the first 15-20 minutes, was actually pretty good. I mean, it kind of felt like he was paying a little tribute to the original Halloween 2, even though he claims he wasn't, because he claims he never liked the original Halloween 2. So I'll give it that. It's like, the 15-20 minutes into the movie was pretty good, but the rest of it started going downhill. I mean, I really didn't like the way Laurie was portrayed in this one. She was very bitchy in this one. I really didn't like that. I also didn't really like that Michael was like, just living out as a hobo for the past 2 years, like wearing a hoodie, barely wearing his mask at all. And I also didn't like the way Dr. Loomis was portrayed in this one, like how he was like basically a money hungry guy, like just cash making money off like people's miseries, like and like shouting at his workers. I didn't really like that. So they made like one of the best characters in the entire series, the most hated character in this one. I did like, however, the death scenes. So like death scene was pretty good. I mean, I liked when Michael stomped on this guy's face. I liked when Michael used this axe in the beginning. I also liked when he was like just stabbing this nurse to death in the beginning. and and that's really it. I mean, I didn't really like. I also did not like that Michael was basically like a mama's boy in this one, because in this one he sees the ghost of his mother, and his mother like wants him to kill. That actually doesn't make any sense, because in the first movie his mother didn't want him to kill, and he knew his mother didn't want him to kill, and she killed herself because she was ashamed of him. Now all of a sudden she wants him to kill? So that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, I just feel like they just had his mother come back as a ghost in this one, because his mother's played by the director Rob Zombie's wife, Sherry Moon Zombie. I just feel like Rob Zombie just can't make a movie without putting his wife in it, because Rob Zombie also directed an episode of CSI and he put his wife in that too. So yeah, his wife's always been in his movies, whether she was one of the main characters or just a small character. So she was always just in his movies, because he just can't make a movie without putting his wife in it. And so, and that's really all I gotta say about this one. I mean, I really didn't like this one almost like really at all. Like it's almost just as bad as Halloween Resurrection. So my rating for this one is, I'm just gonna give this half out of 5. And so that's really it for this video. So there are all of them again. There's the box again. Here's also a book that the unbox came in. And that's about it for this video. So I'm gonna say, hey, take care and have a happy Halloween.